Welcome back, everyone. We're kicking off a deep dive today into AI and education.
Sounds fascinating.
It is, really. We're looking at a book that came out this year, AI, or Die Education AI Competencies.
Lovely title.
Right. It's by Farag, and it's all about how we can use AI to help both teachers and students learn more effectively.
I think a lot of people are curious about that, especially with all the talk about AI lately.
Absolutely. And what I find interesting is this book takes its cues from UNESCO's approach to AI, which means it's all about using this tech responsibly.
Makes sense. So it's not just about throwing AI into the classroom, but doing it thoughtfully.
Exactly. Now, one of the big ideas in the book is this concept of augmented intelligence.
Oh, I've heard that term. Is it like AI working with us, not replacing us?
That's the gist, yeah. The author emphasizes AI as a tool to enhance what we can do, not take over completely.
I like that framing. So AI is more like a partner in education.
Precisely. And I'm really curious to hear more about what that partnership could look like in practice.
Well, imagine this. AI-powered tutors. They can analyze a student's work and figure out exactly where they're struggling.
Oh, like customized help.
Even better. These tutors could then suggest personalized learning paths so each student gets what they need.
That's amazing. It's like, goodbye, one-size-fits-all education. Hello, personalized learning.
Exactly. And think about how helpful that would be for teachers who have classrooms full of kids with different needs.
It makes total sense. But, AI is still pretty new, and some people are understandably a bit worried about it.
Right. Especially in education. There are those robots taking over fears.
Does the book address that at all?
Oh, absolutely. It acknowledges those concerns, but argues that if we do AI right, the benefits are huge.
So thoughtful implementation is key.
Very much so. The book is big on developing AI competencies, both for teachers and students.
Meaning we all need to understand how to use this stuff responsibly.
Exactly. It's about knowing how AI works, its limits, and its ethical side, too.
So a balanced approach.
That's what the book is pushing for sure. It also makes a really interesting point about AI skills being essential in today's world.
I can see that. Things are changing so fast. Tech is everywhere.
And the pandemic actually highlighted this need even more. The author points out how COVID forced schools to adapt quickly, and not everyone was ready.
That's true. It exposed some gaps, technologically speaking.
Precisely. And the book suggests AI can help us be more prepared for future disruptions, whatever those may be.
So AI for resilience, in a way. Wow.
Think about it. Virtual tutors, powered by AI, that can teach kids anywhere, anytime, even if schools are closed.
That's a powerful image. It's about using tech to create a more adaptable and fair education system.
You got it. And this isn't some distant future stuff. It's already happening. There are some really interesting global trends in AI education right now.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's got people excited in this space?
Well, for one thing, the number of ed tech companies using AI has exploded.
Ed tech, as in educational technology.
Right. We're talking learning apps, virtual tutors, personalized platforms, all powered by AI. And the book mentions that by 2025, this market could be worth a whopping $404 billion.
Wow, that's huge. What's driving this growth?
A few things, actually. First, AI tech itself is getting way more advanced, and there's tons more data available.
So the tools are getting better and better.
Exactly. Then there's this growing need for more engaging learning that's actually personalized. AI is seen as the key to that.
Because it can tailor the experience to each student.
Precisely. And lastly, there's a big push to solve those long-standing education challenges, like teacher shortages.
Especially in areas that are underserved, right?
Exactly. AI is seen as one way to tackle those issues.
I'm really curious to hear some specific examples of how AI is being used to solve these problems.
Oh, the book has some really captivating ones. For instance, in rural areas where there aren't enough teachers, they're using AI-powered virtual tutors.
So kids are getting individual instruction even without a human teacher in the room.
Exactly. And the book even explains how these systems work. They often use these things called large language models.
Large language models.
They're a kind of AI that understands and generates human-like text. That's how those virtual tutors can have natural conversations with students.
Wow, so it's not just about giving canned responses. It's actually interactive and personalized.
You got it. These virtual tutors don't just answer questions, they analyze how the student is doing.
And then adjust the lessons based on that.
Exactly. They can even offer encouragement to keep the student motivated.
It's like having a personal learning buddy, always there to help. The book mentions some real-world examples of this in action, right?
Oh, yeah. The author shares some really fascinating stories of how AI is already changing classrooms around the world.
Okay, I'm ready for a story. Got one that stands out to you.
Well, one that I found really compelling is from China. They've got this AI tutoring system called Squirrel AI.
Squirrel AI. That's an interesting name.
Right. And what's cool about it is that it personalizes the learning for each kid.
So not everyone is learning the same thing at the same pace.
Nope. Squirrel AI analyzes each student's strengths and weaknesses and then creates a learning plan just for them.
It's like a custom-made education.
Uh,
Amazing.
And the results are pretty incredible. According to the book, students using Squirrel AI are learning subjects like math 30–50% faster.
Wow, that's a huge difference. Accelerated learning like that could open up so many doors for students.
Absolutely. And there are other examples too, like in India. They're using AI learning apps to fill in gaps in education.
Especially in places where there aren't enough teachers, I imagine.
Exactly. One popular app is called Byju's, and it offers these really high-quality lessons, but tailored to different learning styles.
So it's not just about access to information, but about making sure that learning actually works for each student.
Precisely. And what's remarkable is that Byju's is being used by millions of kids in India, both in cities and rural villages.
That's a testament to how technology can make education more accessible to everyone. It's really inspiring.
It is. But AI isn't just for countries with challenges in education. Even countries like Finland, which is known for its amazing schools.
Oh, Finland is like the gold standard for education, right?
Pretty much. But even they are exploring what AI can do. They're experimenting with AI teacher assistants.
Interesting. What would those assistants do?
Things like helping teachers with lesson planning and grading. It frees up the teacher's time to focus on what humans do best.
Right, like mentoring students, being creative, building those relationships.
Exactly. And the book suggests this could really benefit both teachers and students.
Imagine a classroom where teachers have more time for each individual student, and AI is handling the routine tasks. What a great partnership.
It really is. But with all this talk about AI, what about the students themselves? What do they need to know in this new world?
That's a great question. How do they navigate this increasingly technological landscape?
Well, the book stresses that students need to be digitally literate.
Digital literacy, we hear that a lot, but what does it actually mean in the context of AI?
It's not just about knowing how to use computers anymore. It's about understanding how AI works, its limitations, and how it can impact us.
So being able to think critically about AI and its role in our lives.
Exactly. And being able to tell fact from fiction, especially with all the misinformation out there.
It's about empowering students to be informed and responsible users, not just passive consumers of technology.
That's the goal. And the book suggests some really cool ways to teach digital literacy, like having students build simple AI models themselves.
Oh, I love that. It makes AI less abstract and more tangible, and it gives them hands-on experience.
Right. It's all about making AI more accessible and giving them the confidence to experiment with it.
It sounds like we're talking about a whole new approach to education.
Right.
One that's really focused on preparing students for a future where AI is everywhere.
Absolutely. And it's a future full of possibilities, but we need to be mindful of the ethical considerations too.
Right. We've touched on that a bit. Why are ethics so crucial when it comes to AI in education?
Well, AI systems are trained on data, right? And that data can contain biases from society.
Oh, so if we're not careful, AI could actually make those biases worse, especially in education.
That's a real concern. We need to make sure AI is being used to make education more fair, not less. And that takes critical thinking, both on the part of teachers and students. The book even suggests using ethical dilemmas in lessons.
So getting students to think about real-world scenarios and how AI might play a role.
Exactly. It's about preparing them to be ethical citizens in an AI-powered world.
That's a great idea. Now, there's one specific type of AI that I wanted to ask about, generative AI. The book highlights that a lot.
Ah, yes. Generative AI is super exciting, and it has the potential to completely change education.
For those who might not be familiar, can you explain what generative AI is and why it's relevant to education?
Sure. It's basically AI that can create new stuff like text, images, music, even computer code. You've probably heard of ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, ChatGPT's all over the news these days.
Rightfully so. It's a powerful tool and a great example of what generative AI can do. But the book talks about a whole range of these tools being made specifically for education.
Okay, give me some examples. How could these tools be used in the classroom?
Well, picture this. A tool that can make personalized quizzes for each student based on their learning style. Or a tool that can explain a concept in different ways using different types of content.
So some students might get a visual explanation, while others get an audio one, depending on what works best for them.
Exactly. Generative AI can do all that. It's like having a personal content creator for each student.
That's incredible. But there must be some downsides too, right?
The book acknowledges that. One concern is plagiarism. Students could easily just copy and paste AI-generated stuff.
Right, and we don't want them to become overly reliant on AI to do the thinking for them.
Exactly. It's crucial to teach them how to use these tools responsibly and ethically while still developing their own skills.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Precisely. And that's where the teacher's role becomes even more important.
Right, we've talked about how AI won't replace teachers, but it will definitely change how they teach. So how do teachers need to adapt with this generative AI coming into classrooms?
Well, first off, teachers need to understand these tools themselves.
So professional development is going to be key.
Absolutely. They need time to explore, experiment, and figure out how to use generative AI effectively in their teaching.
And they need to be able to teach their students how to use it responsibly, too.
Exactly. It's not just about the tech skills, but also the critical thinking and ethical awareness that go along with it.
It sounds like AI is going to require a big shift in how we approach education, both for teachers and students.
It is a big shift, but it's full of potential. If we do this thoughtfully, AI could make learning more engaging, more equitable, and more effective for everyone. It really is a whole new world of education. And speaking of the bigger picture, the book really emphasizes that AI in education is a global thing.
Right, AI is everywhere these days, so it makes sense that its impact on education would be felt worldwide. But I'm curious about how different countries are approaching it. Are there any common threads?
Well, the book highlights the role of UNESCO in shaping this global conversation. They've put out guidelines that really emphasize the ethical side of things, making sure AI benefits everyone, and the need for countries to work together.
UNESCO has always been a big advocate for education and using tech for good, so it's not surprising they're taking the lead here. Can you tell us more about those guidelines? What are the key principles they're pushing?
One of the big ones is making sure AI is used to benefit all learners, no matter where they are or what their background is.
That's important. We've talked about how AI could actually worsen inequalities if we're not careful.
Absolutely. So these guidelines talk about things like making sure algorithms aren't biased, protecting student data, and making sure everyone has access to the technology in the first place.
Makes sense. It's about using AI to make education more fair, not less.
Exactly. UNESCO is also promoting this idea of lifelong learning in the age of AI. The skills we need today might be totally different tomorrow, so we all need to keep learning and adapting.
Lifelong learning is definitely becoming more and more important these days. How can AI help with that?
Well, imagine AI systems that can personalize your learning journey, recommend resources just for you, and give you feedback along the way. It makes learning more accessible for people of all ages.
It's like having a personal learning guide, no matter what you want to learn or when you want to learn it.
Precisely. And UNESCO is encouraging countries to create AI competency frameworks that fit with these guidelines, but also make sense for their own cultures and economies.
We've talked about those frameworks before, but can you remind us what they are and why they're so important?
Sure. Think of them like roadmaps that outline what students and teachers need to know to succeed in a world full of AI.
So it's not just about teaching kids how to code or use the specific AI tool. It's about a deeper understanding of how this technology works and its impact.
Exactly. And these frameworks are being used in schools and universities all over the globe. The book has some really inspiring examples of countries leading the way.
Okay, I always love a good example. What's one that really stood out to you?
One that impressed me was South Korea. They've got this whole national AI strategy, and education is a big part of it.
South Korea is known for being super tech savvy, so it makes sense that they're at the forefront here. What are they doing that's so innovative?
Well, they're using AI to actually audit their own education system, making sure it's fair.
Oh, that's interesting. Like double-checking their own work with AI.
Exactly. They realized there could be bias in their automated grading systems, which isn't fair to students.
Right. We talked about how biased data can lead to biased algorithms. That could really disadvantage certain groups of kids.
Absolutely. So they're using AI to analyze all that grading data and look for any patterns that might suggest bias.
So they're fighting AI bias with AI. That's clever. What kind of impact has this had?
According to the book, they've seen a big reduction in grade disparities between students from different socioeconomic backgrounds.
That's awesome. It shows how AI can help level the playing field if used thoughtfully.
It really does. And South Korea is also investing heavily in training their teachers in AI because they know teachers are key to making this work.
Teachers are the ones in the classrooms, working with the students day in and day out. They're essential.
Absolutely. And the book really emphasizes that point. Without well-trained teachers, even the best AI tools won't be effective.
It's that human element again, that partnership between humans and technology.
Precisely. So South Korea is a great example of a country that's really taking AI education seriously and doing it in an ethical way. But there are other inspiring examples too.
Okay, tell me about another one.
Well, there's Kenya. They're using AI to tackle the digital divide, particularly in rural areas where internet access is limited.
Bridging that digital divide is so crucial. We can't talk about AI in education without acknowledging that millions of kids still don't have access to basic technology.
Exactly. And Kenya is really taking a proactive approach. They've teamed up with UNESCO to introduce these mobile learning platforms.
Mobile learning platforms. So kids can learn using their phones.
Exactly. It's a great way to reach students in areas where computers and internet access are scarce. And what's even cooler is that these platforms are designed to work offline.
That's brilliant.
Uh-huh.
So they're not limited by internet connectivity issues. What kind of stuff are these platforms teaching?
They cover a wide range of subjects, from the basics like reading and math to science, history, and even coding. And the content is all aligned with the local curriculum.
So it's relevant and engaging for the students. It sounds like they're creating a really well-rounded learning experience. What kind of impact are these platforms having?
Well, the book says they've seen a significant increase in student engagement and how well they're doing in school, particularly in those rural areas.
That's wonderful. It really shows how technology can be a game changer when it comes to creating a level playing field for all learners.
It really can. But it's not just happening in developing countries. Even countries with strong education systems are using AI to make things more equitable, like Finland, for example.
Oh, Finland again. What are they up to?
They're using AI to develop personalized learning tools for students with disabilities. These tools can adapt to different learning styles and needs, which makes education more inclusive.
I love that. It's about making sure that everyone has the opportunity to learn and reach their full potential. It sounds like AI is really changing the game when it comes to personalized and inclusive learning.
It is. But with all these changes, the role of the teacher is more important than ever.
Absolutely. We've talked about how AI won't replace teachers, but it will change how they teach. What kind of skills do teachers need to be successful in this new world of AI education?
That's where those AI competency frameworks come in. They lay out exactly what teachers need to know about AI to use it effectively in their classrooms.
Okay, let's unpack those frameworks a bit. What are some of the key things that teachers need to know?
Well, a big one is foundational AI literacy. That's just having a basic understanding of what AI is, how it works, and how it can be used in education.
So teachers don't need to become AI experts, but they do need to be comfortable with the basic concepts.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technical stuff, it's also about the ethical considerations.
Right, we've been talking about ethics a lot. What are some of the key ethical considerations that teachers need to be aware of?
Data privacy is a big one. Teachers need to understand how AI systems collect, store, and use student data, and they need to be able to explain all that to students and parents.
Transparency is so important, especially with a technology like AI that can feel a bit mysterious.
Absolutely. And teachers also need to be aware of potential bias in algorithms. They need to be able to critically evaluate AI tools and make sure they're not reinforcing inequalities.
So it's not just about using AI, it's about using it responsibly and fairly.
Yeah.
And those are skills that need to be baked into these competency frameworks.
Exactly. But beyond the foundational stuff, teachers also need to develop strategies for actually using AI in their teaching.
Okay, pedagogical strategies. That sounds a bit academic. What does that actually look like in a classroom?
Well, it's about being creative and thinking about how AI can make learning better. For example, teachers could use AI tools to personalize lessons for each student or to create interactive games that make learning more fun.
Those are great ideas. AI can really open up a lot of possibilities for making learning more engaging and effective.
It really can. And the book actually shares some case studies of schools and teachers who are doing amazing things with AI.
Okay, let's hear about one of those case studies. Tell me about a school or teacher who's really embracing AI and seeing positive results.
One that really stood out was about a school in rural India that was struggling with teacher absenteeism. Teachers were often absent, which meant students were missing out on valuable learning time.
Teacher absenteeism is a huge problem in many parts of the world, especially in rural areas where resources are already stretched thin.
Exactly. And this school in India found a really innovative solution using AI. They partnered with an edtech company to implement this AI-powered learning platform.
So what did that platform do?
It gave students access to high-quality lessons and personalized feedback, even when their teachers weren't there.
So even without a teacher physically present, students could still learn and progress. That's amazing. What kind of impact did this have?
The book said they saw big improvements in both student attendance and how well they were doing in school. Students were more engaged, and they weren't falling behind when their teacher was absent.
That's fantastic. It shows how AI can really help overcome real-world challenges in education. But with all this focus on technology, it's important to remember the human side of things too.
You're absolutely right. Technology should never replace the human connection in education.
Right. Education is about so much more than just delivering content. It's about relationships, inspiration, and nurturing a love of learning.
Absolutely. And while AI can play a role in supporting those things, we need to make sure it doesn't dehumanize the learning experience.
So it's about finding that balance, using AI to enhance the human element, not diminish it.
Exactly. And the book has some great examples of teachers who are doing just that, using AI to create more personalized and engaging learning experiences that foster stronger connections with their students.
Okay, tell me about one of those teachers. How are they using AI to create a more human-centered classroom?
One example that comes to mind is a teacher in Canada who uses AI to create personalized learning playlists for her students.
Learning playlists, like Spotify, but for education.
Kind of. She gets to know her students' interests and how they learn best, and then she uses an AI tool to create these playlists of videos, articles, and interactive exercises that are tailored to each student.
So each student is getting a learning experience that's custom-made for them. That's awesome.
It is, and she says her students are way more motivated and engaged since she started doing this. They're learning more, and they're retaining information better.
That's great to hear. It's a perfect example of how AI can make learning more student-centered and engaging. But what about assessment? How can AI be used to assess learning in a way that's fair and accurate?
That's another area where AI has huge potential. Traditional assessments, like standardized tests, don't always capture the full picture of what a student knows and can do.
Right. They can be stressful, and they don't always measure the things that matter most, like creativity and problem solving.
Exactly. AI can help us move beyond those limitations and create more personalized and adaptive assessments. Imagine a system that adjusts the difficulty of questions based on how a student is doing, providing a more challenging and engaging experience.
That's a great idea. It would keep students from getting bored or frustrated, and it would provide a more accurate picture of their understanding.
Exactly. AI can also help us assess those harder to measure skills like creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving.
Those are the skills that are going to be most in demand in the future.
Absolutely. And there are AI tools that can analyze student work, like essays or projects, and assess not just if the answer is right or wrong, but the quality of their thinking and the creativity of their solutions.
It's about going deeper than just checking boxes and really evaluating how students are learning and thinking.
Exactly. And this kind of assessment can give students much more helpful feedback, showing them their strength and areas where they can grow.
So it's not just about getting a grade, it's about becoming a better learner. But with all this talk about AI and its potential, it's easy to forget about the human element of education.
You're right. We need to make sure that technology is used to enhance the human connection in learning, not replace it.
At the end of the day, education is about relationships, inspiration, and nurturing a love of learning. Those are things that AI can't replace.
Absolutely. While AI can support those things, it's essential that we keep the human element at the forefront.
Right. AI should empower teachers, not replace them. It should connect students, not isolate them. And it should inspire a love of learning, not just a focus on grades.
Beautifully said. That's a really important message to remember as we navigate this exciting and rapidly changing world of AI in education.
I agree. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to take a moment to think about the ethical implications of AI in education.
Yes, it's crucial to keep ethics front and center in this conversation.
We've talked about how AI could worsen inequalities if we're not careful. But beyond that, there's a bigger question about the role of technology in shaping young minds.
That's a really important point. We need to think about the values that are built into these AI systems and make sure they align with our goals as educators.
Exactly. It's not just about teaching students how to use AI. It's about teaching them how to use it ethically and responsibly. It's about digital citizenship.
Absolutely. And we need to remember that AI isn't neutral. It reflects the biases and values of the people who create it and the data it's trained on.
So we need to develop ethical competency frameworks right alongside those AI competency frameworks.
I couldn't agree more. We have to give students the critical thinking skills and ethical awareness they need to navigate this complex world of technology.
Okay, so we know ethics are important. But how do we put those principles into practice? What can schools and teachers actually do to ensure AI is being used in a way that benefits all students?
Well, the book has some really practical advice. One of the key recommendations is to involve students in the process.
I love that. Don't just tell students about AI. Talk with them about it. Have conversations about how it works, the good and the bad, and the ethical stuff.
Exactly. Create a classroom where students feel comfortable asking questions and thinking critically about AI.
It's about raising a generation that's AI literate, not just in terms of using the technology, but also in understanding its impact and making ethical choices.
That's the goal. And another important step is to build diverse teams of educators, researchers, and tech people who are all working together on AI in education.
Diversity is so important. The people who are designing these AI systems need to represent the diversity of the students who are using them.
Absolutely, and we need to make sure that all students, regardless of their background, have the chance to learn about AI and contribute their ideas.
Okay, so student involvement in diverse teams. What else can schools and teachers do to make sure AI is being used responsibly?
The book also recommends having clear guidelines and policies in place about AI in education.
So it's not just up to individual teachers to figure this out on their own. There needs to be a school-wide or district-wide approach that's based on ethical principles.
Exactly. These guidelines should cover things like data privacy, dealing with bias, transparency, and accountability. It's about creating a framework that ensures AI is used fairly for all students.
And we need to make sure those guidelines are actually being followed.
Right. There need to be ways to monitor and evaluate how AI is being used and to identify any unintended consequences. We need to be flexible and willing to make changes as we learn more.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Well said. We're all learning as we go, and it's important to be open to feedback from students, teachers, and parents. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on the future of AI in education, since it's such a rapidly changing landscape.
Okay, let's look ahead. What does the book predict for the future of AI in education?
One of the big predictions is that AI will play an even bigger role in personalizing learning.
We've talked about personalized learning already, but it sounds like it's going to get even more sophisticated.
It is. Imagine every student having their own AI tutor that adapts to their specific learning style and needs.
That's amazing. It's like having a personalized learning companion.
Exactly. And these AI tutors won't just be delivering content. They'll be analyzing data to predict where students might struggle and intervene before they fall behind.
That's incredible. It's about using AI to be proactive and really support each student's success.
Precisely.
Right.
And it's not just about individual learning. AI will also play a big role in helping students connect and learn from each other.
Oh, I'm intrigued. How will it do that?
Think about AI-powered platforms that connect students from all over the world, letting them work together on projects and share ideas.
So creating a global classroom where students can learn from each other's diverse perspectives.
Exactly. It's about preparing them for a future where collaboration and cross-cultural communication are essential skills. But of course, with all these exciting possibilities, there are also potential challenges that we need to consider.
Right. No technology is perfect. What are some of the challenges that we need to be aware of as AI becomes more integrated into education?
One of the biggest concerns is that AI could make existing inequalities worse, especially if we don't address issues like bias and access to technology.
We've talked about the importance of ethical AI development, but it's going to be an ongoing challenge.
It is. If we're not careful, AI could create a two-tiered education system where those who have access to the best AI tools have a huge advantage.
So it's not just about developing the technology, it's about making sure everyone benefits from it.
Exactly. And another challenge is the potential for AI to dehumanize education.
We need to make sure we're using AI in a way that enhances the human connection, not replaces it.
Absolutely. We need to be mindful of the importance of human interaction and ensure that AI is used to support, not replace, the role of the teacher.
Right. We want AI to be a tool that helps teachers be more effective, not something that pushes them out of the classroom. But beyond those challenges, there's also this big question of what happens to human skills and knowledge in an AI-powered world.
That's a deep question. As AI gets more and more capable, it's only natural to wonder what role humans will play in the future.
Right. If AI can do so much, what does that mean for jobs, for learning, for what it means to be human?
Those are huge questions, and the book doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it does offer some interesting perspectives.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of the key insights from the book about the future of human skills in an AI world?
Well, one of the main arguments is that AI won't make human skills obsolete. It will just change which skills are most important.
So instead of focusing on rote memorization or repetitive tasks, which AI can often do better than humans, we need to focus on those uniquely human skills like creativity, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Those are the skills that are going to be most valuable in a world where AI is handling a lot of the routine work. And those are the skills that education needs to prioritize.
It's about preparing students not just for the jobs that exist today, but for the jobs that haven't even been invented yet.
Absolutely. And it's about helping them develop a love of learning and a willingness to adapt and evolve as the world changes. That's what it means to be a lifelong learner.
It's about giving them the tools and the mindset to thrive in a world that's constantly changing and where AI is going to play an increasingly important role.
Exactly. And the book suggests that AI can actually help us do that, help us develop those essential human skills.
Okay, I'm really curious about that. How can AI help us become more creative, more adaptable, more human in a sense?
Well, one way is through personalized learning. When learning is tailored to your individual needs and interests, it's more engaging and motivating.
So you're more likely to stick with it and develop a genuine love of learning.
Precisely. And AI can also give us real-time feedback and support, which can boost our confidence and make us more resilient when we face challenges.
It's like having a personalized coach who's always there to cheer you on and help you improve.
Exactly. And AI can connect us with mentors and experts from all over the world, which can broaden our perspectives and open up new possibilities.
It's about using AI to create a truly global learning community where everyone has the opportunity to learn and grow.
That's the vision. But as we embrace these possibilities, we also need to be mindful of the potential downsides and make sure that AI is used ethically and responsibly.
It's a balancing act for sure. But I think this book does a great job of highlighting both the opportunities and the challenges of AI in education.
I agree. It's a call to action for all of us to think critically about how we want to use this powerful technology to shape the future of learning.
Well, this has been a truly fascinating exploration of AI in education. I'm feeling really inspired and also a bit overwhelmed by all the possibilities.
I know what you mean. It's a lot to take in, but it's also incredibly exciting.
It is. Now, I'm eager to dive into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll look at some concrete examples of how these AI competency frameworks are being put into practice around the world.
Sounds good. I'm ready to see how these ideas are coming to life in real classrooms. It's one thing to talk about these big ideas, but seeing how they're actually being used is what makes it real.
Totally. The book mentioned that China is doing some really interesting things with AI education on a national level.
Oh, yeah. China's going all in on AI. They've got this ambitious national program to boost AI literacy across the country. They're even introducing AI competency frameworks in middle school.
Middle school. Wow, that's early. Most people don't even start thinking about AI until much later.
Right. It shows how seriously they're taking this. And it's not just about using AI. It's about understanding how it works.
So they're teaching kids the fundamentals of AI, like machine learning and robotics, at a young age.
Exactly. They're preparing them to be the next generation of AI innovators, but they're not neglecting the ethics either.
That's good to hear. We've talked a lot about how important the ethical side of AI is, especially in education.
Absolutely. The book made it clear that China's program includes discussions about ethics and critical thinking, not just the technical stuff.
So they're teaching kids to use AI responsibly and to think about its impact on society.
That's the idea. It's not just about creating tech whizzes, it's about creating responsible citizens who can use AI for good.
I like that. But China's not the only country doing cool stuff with AI education.
Oh, definitely not. The book is full of great examples from all over the world. One that really stood out to me was a program in Canada that's using AI to empower Indigenous communities.
Oh, wow. Tell me more about that one.
They're developing AI competency frameworks that are specifically designed for Indigenous students.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach. They're taking into account the unique needs and cultural context of these communities.
Exactly. And they're even weaving indigenous knowledge and traditions into the AI lessons.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, they're using AI to analyze traditional storytelling patterns and even to create simulations of traditional practices.
That's a really creative way to make AI relevant and engaging for those students. It's about connecting their cultural heritage with cutting-edge technology.
Right. It's about showing them that AI isn't just some foreign thing. It can be a tool for preserving their culture.
What kind of results are they seeing with this program?
The book said it's been incredibly successful. Students are excited about AI, and they're seeing how it can be used to address issues that are important to their communities.
That's amazing. It's a great example of how AI can be used to create a more inclusive and equitable learning environment. But we can't forget about those places where access to technology is still a major barrier.
You're right. The digital divide is a huge issue, and it's something that the book addresses as well. One of the examples that really impressed me was a project in Uganda.
What are they doing in Uganda?
They're using AI to transform rural education, but they had to get creative because many rural areas lack reliable electricity and internet.
Yeah, that makes teaching about AI pretty challenging.
Exactly. So they came up with a solution: solar-powered devices that can run AI-powered learning apps offline.
Oh, that's smart. The devices can be used anywhere, even without internet access. What kind of things are these apps teaching?
They focus on basic skills like reading and math, along with life skills that are relevant to those communities. And they use AI to tailor the learning to each student.
It's amazing how AI can be used to bridge that gap between urban and rural education, giving more kids the opportunity to learn.
It really is. And it's not just about giving kids access to information, it's about supporting teachers, too.
Right, because ultimately it's the teachers who are on the front lines, working with the students day in and day out.
Exactly. The Uganda project is providing training to teachers, showing them how to use these AI tools to make their lessons more engaging.
It's about empowering teachers, not replacing them.
Absolutely. And it's clearly working because the book says they've seen a big jump in both student and teacher engagement since they started the program.
That's wonderful to hear. So we've seen how AI is being used in China, Canada, and Uganda to improve education. It's clear that this is a global phenomenon with huge potential. But before we wrap up, I want to come back to this question of the future of work. What kind of jobs will be available for these kids once they graduate?
That's a question a lot of people are asking, and it's something that the book addresses head-on. The author argues that AI isn't going to make human jobs disappear. It's going to change what those jobs look like.
So AI will be a tool that we use, not something that takes over completely.
Exactly. The key is to prepare students for this new world by teaching them the skills they'll need to work effectively alongside AI.
Okay, so what are those skills? What do we need to be teaching our kids today to prepare them for the future?
We've touched on this throughout our deep dive, but it boils down to those uniquely human skills: critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and collaboration. These are the skills that AI can't replicate, and they'll be more valuable than ever in the future.
So it's not just about teaching technical skills like coding, but about fostering those higher-order thinking skills that will allow humans to thrive in an AI-driven world.
Exactly. And it's also about instilling a love of learning, a sense of curiosity, and a willingness to adapt. The world is changing faster than ever, so being able to learn and evolve is going to be essential.
It's about equipping students not just for specific jobs, but for a lifetime of learning and growth.
Absolutely, and I think that's the most important message of this book. AI has incredible potential to transform education, but it's up to us to make sure it's used in a way that benefits all learners and prepares them for a future where they can thrive.
That's a powerful message. And I think this book has given us a lot to think about, both in terms of the opportunities and the challenges that AI presents for education.
I agree. It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners are feeling as inspired and energized as I am to explore the possibilities of AI in education.
Me too. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. To our listeners, we hope this episode has given you a better understanding of this complex and rapidly evolving field. We encourage you to continue learning and exploring and to be part of the conversation about how we can use AI to create a better future for education.